Hello everyone, welcome to Everything Wrong with the Nintendo Switch, a hybrid console that can switch from handheld to docked, aka Nintendo's attempt to make up for the disaster that was the Wii U. Remember all that hullabaloo way back when about the iPhone 6 Plus warping? Well, Nintendo executives thought about how much press that got, stared down at their plummeting stock, and came up with an idea. Another large screen thing that people can slightly bend. And thus, the Nintendo Switch was thrust into the universe for $300 a piece. When news spread that some Switches were warped, people started analyzing the shit out of their consoles with rulers and levels to show that their screens had warped too. Tell me, if you need a level to determine if your screen is slightly warped, does it really matter if your screen is slightly warped? When the Switch launched, there was really only one game people could play: The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. And if you didn't want to play a game that sounded like a Storytime YouTuber's date gone wrong, you were stuck with the Switch equivalent of Wii Sports, 1-2-Switch. It's fun, but just constantly reminds you about the real sports outside with friends you could be playing instead of sitting on the couch. The Switch doesn't have 4K graphics, which pissed a lot of people off. It's super disappointing because, you know, the graphics in 1-2-Switch are, well, let's just say we're missing out. So the basic setup of the Switch is the screen and the two Joy-Con controllers that attach to each side. The controllers are blue and red, both of which are considered boy colors, which makes sense coming from the creators of Game Boy. Real classy, Nintendo. I mean, I guess they're also the colors of Super Mario, their most prominent character, but bad, bad, bad Nintendo. When you connect the controllers to the screen, they make a fun little dingy noise to let you know that they're connected to the system. That's helpful, right? Well, no. You have to wait for the mechanical, real-sounding, boring, dull click to know they're physically attached as well as connected. Which means eager teen boys are letting go too early, dropping their screens to the ground and cracking them, making messes everywhere. If one of these controllers break, don't worry, a replacement will only cost you around 80 bucks. You can buy a lightly used Nintendo 2DS for that much, and a brand new 2DS XL if you manage to break both of them at once. Now, if you just realized that your left controller is no longer working, don't worry, it might not be your fault. Although it probably is because you didn't wait for the mechanical clicking sound. Thousands of people have found that their left Joy-Con didn't connect via Bluetooth. While this is disappointing, it did free up their left hand for, other endeavors. I mean, have you seen Link? Even though the Switch supports Bluetooth, you can't listen to the classic, totally interesting soundtracks via wireless headphones. You have to have wiry headphones. So disappointing. Even more than the other issues, people have had a problem with their battery indicator, namely that it, well, didn't work. Now, don't worry, Nintendo was quick to come up with a solution. Only the solution takes longer than they did to announce it. It is a 7-step, 7-hour process that is meant to be repeated because, and I quote, "it will be necessary to repeat this process several times." Actually, now that I think about it, the Switch is Nintendo's 7th console. 7 steps, 7 hours, 7 consoles? Is this some weird Illuminati shit we don't know about? Is there a Japanese-specific Illuminati? When users started to notice dead pixels on their touchscreens, Nintendo just sent out word that it was normal and should not be considered a defect. That's like if you buy milk from a store and immediately realize it's spoiled, try to return it and they refuse because it's normal that milk spoils. Speaking of disgusting tasting things, a disturbingly large number of Nintendo Switchers discover, to their chagrin, that the Nintendo Switch doesn't taste good. Why these tests occurred is anyone's guess, but seriously, way too many people know how the Switch tastes. The company coats their games in a bitter substance to avoid little kids choking on the parts. We are the dogs in their Pavlovian experiment.
Holy, why am I doing it again?
I would like to point out that this console is called the Nintendo Switch because it can switch from console to handheld. Awesome. With that logic, the Nintendo DS should have been called the Nintendo Wide Open Closer. The Game Boy Advance SP should have been called the Game Boy Square Open Closer. The Nintendo 64 should have been called the Nintendo Blow. The Wii should have been called the Nintendo Probably Won't Break Your TV because there are straps on the controller. And the GameCube should have been called, oh, well, no, that one's pretty spot on. Nintendo says the name had a dual purpose, the whole switching from handheld to console thing, but also the idea of being a switch that will flip and change the way people experience entertainment in their daily lives. Although I'd like to believe them, I'm pretty sure they just felt bad when someone criticized the name to their faces and just pulled that out of their asses, but hey, that's just me. And finally, Nintendo even took out its first ever Super Bowl ad in order to market the Switch. Because if there's any audience for a new multifaceted gaming console that relies on Bluetooth, it's drunk, male, 45-year-old football fans.
It tastes so good.